Welcome back to the Women in Finance Let's Talk podcast. I'm Siobhan, and today I have Kerry Burgess with me. We're going to continue where we left off. Let's get back into it.
So my next question for you then is more about bringing our personalities to the forefront of what we do in financial services. How do we be ourselves in the working environment and use our personalities to kind of better that.
Yeah. So when I moved into the regional advisory services manager role, I was brought in because my experience was in operations and people management. So even though I'm looking after advisors, you'd naturally presume that I'd have to have had that sales experience.
Yeah.
Whereas because we were a group of regional sales managers, some had experience in advising, so had been advisors before and had stepped back and then become an account manager, regional services manager. And then I had other people there that had worked for larger organisations more on your data-driven side of things, others that were more growth development. I came in with the people and the processes experience. So as a team of 7, we each had, different responsibilities and different ways that we were looking at that role. But collectively, we were able then to design what that looked like. And now I'm finding more, because we've got more of a regional structure where the things within the regions have settled down to the point where there's one process, is one procedure. So there's Progeny's way of doing things now, rather than all these different integrated firms all trying to battle to do their own thing. Now is the time that within the business we can draw that line in the sand and go, right, we are all now acting in the same way, in the sense that we're using SAT and AI, so the work that's coming through to the admin team is more streamlined. So therefore you can train the admin and power planners to pick up on those activities, because they've got one version of the truth versus 70 or 80 odd, because of how many advisors there are in the company. So because that has now progressed to a point where it's more streamlined, now we can actually start working with the advisors themselves on their individuality and what they bring to the role, but not stifle their differences in how they service their clients. It's more the behind the scenes has got to be streamlined, because you've got to have that efficiency. What that means now is that because we are a private equity backed business, we have got to obviously bring profit for the shareholders, and we have got to have that growth. Now that we are in that position of having those efficiencies there, now is the next stage up. So now is the looking at the growth, the development. How do we encourage more clients into the business? So that's a different shift for me as well in what I bring to the role, but where my not unique talents, but unique within the team, is the fact that I bring that people management strategy and the ops side of it together. So I don't, I've said it before, I don't think it would matter what role I was in. I would always probably lean more towards, this is the benefits that I personally can bring to that role. And I'm very meticulous, I'm very methodical, I like things in a certain way. But I also think if you've got really good processes and procedures, and you've then got the right people that you're nurturing within those roles, anything is possible. If you've got really good processes, but you haven't got the right people in the roles, or you can't nurture them, or you haven't got that training element of them, you're never going to get that success that you want to achieve if any one of those elements doesn't show up.
I think it's the people in those roles are very important, and you've got to have, depending on what your strategies are, and what kind of processes you have, and all those kind of things, you do need to have that buy-in from people. And for me, it's all about, I've always said that you want people who are coming into work because they're passionate about what they do, and that's something that I'm very driven by. Like I very much want to stay excited about what I'm doing, and be always like sort of forward thinking, and how can I do the best thing myself. And I very much, I appreciate that when I see that in other people, and I think, yes, like you're definitely the type of person here, and this, you're going to fit well within a team, and whichever. Whereas I find that if there are people who are lacking that, it's probably because that they need that little spark again. Something's not quite there, and it's not necessarily a bad thing, but it's something that we sometimes we do need to kind of reignite, don't we?
but they might not have recognized themselves what that
Yeah,
unique spark is for them. And that's that
exactly.
is that is where I light up within my role, is when I make that
Yeah,
difference. So one of the gentlemen that I look after, from a recent integration, I started looking after him, and his, I would say his, I don't think he'll mind, but his confidence was at rock
yeah,
bottom. You know, he'd very much been given the lower AUN clients. You know, it was I don't think the original business owners had much sort of confidence maybe in his ability, and therefore I think that rubbed off on him.
yeah,
So at the point that I started looking after them as the regional advisory services manager, my first thing was, how can I get this guy to recognise how good he is?
yeah,
And you know, he was fantastic with people. He really wanted to do the right thing, and so I got him involved in the advisory council at Progeny. So then he gained a voice, so he
yeah,
could then start having that conversation and sharing his experience. And because he was then one of 10 or 12 people in a room rather than 80 odd on a planner call, you know, he had a smaller audience that he could start working with to try and sort of bring him out of himself and bring him out of his shell. Now he's one of my biggest advocates within the region now for newer advisors that join, but also other individuals within that team. You know,
yeah,
he's always looking around at the admin and the power planners and going, you know, ringing me up saying, you know, I think we should be doing this or we could be doing that. And, you know, actually he's gone 180. You know, it's
yeah,
absolutely amazing from where he was. But that's where I light up, because
yeah,
my motto is helping to make your goals achievable, and that's what I live by, and that's why I
yeah.
don't think I'll ever retire. I think I'll hopefully I'll get to a point where at some point I can reduce my days. I'm only 47, by the way, so I've got a little way
It's
to
okay,
go.
you've got some time. You've got some time.
Yeah,
It's fine. It's fine.
but I'm
Yeah,
hoping that, you know, I can continue to help other people to find that part of them that actually lights up when they are at work, because I am a sad person. I know. I love what I do. I love our profession. I love the fact that even now I can sit here after 29 years and go, there's so much that I can still do, learn, or be. And, you know, I don't think I'll ever give up on that. My husband keeps saying to me now, I know you said you wouldn't do any more qualifications after you finished your CIPD level 7. He went, I bet you pick something up by the end of the year. And that's because we can continue to learn in this role.
yeah. You're right in that I'm very similar in terms of like I I love financial services. I think it's a great profession to be in. I think it's a great career to have. I think I love the idea of helping people. I get very passionate when I come across people who don't quite understand what we do, or, you know, they sort of think we're just there to kind of, you know, oh, well, you know,
Yeah,
you're just going to tell me to put it in this and then, you know, take a fee off of me every year. I'm like, no, it's not like that at all. Like, for me, it's about like, well, achieving their goals, but like, it's like we're there to help you. I mean, would have you known any of that stuff if you didn't have a financial advisor? Like, these are
yeah.
the kind of things.
How
I
many
mean,
expensive mistakes would people make if
yeah,
they didn't have an
exactly,
advisor?
exactly.
Yeah,
And I just think, you know, I love what we do in the industry for our clients. I think it is a really good career to have, as I've said. And yeah, no, I mean, and even in particular for myself, like, you know, I've considered going down the advisory route myself. It's still something that maybe I'm on the idea of like exploring, but just more so that it's another experience I can have. I can learn more from it. You know, I feel like I could then come back into compliance, but I'd have it like a different skill set that's involved then. But ultimately, I have been told several times that basically compliance is where I belong. Like, I've got a compliance head. I'm very big on the fact that, you know, let's have an open door policy kind of vibe. You know, I love
yeah,
all of that, and you know, I'm such a people person in the way that I want to nourish, you know, them as a person. Like, I want to make sure that they feel seen, that they feel that they belong in the company, and that, like, say that
yeah,
they've got that voice. I think it's so important, and especially, you know, as we said earlier, that with this you know, movement in terms of like the experience that's like sort of leaving the industry because of, you know, people who've been in those roles are retiring or they're moving on into different things. I
yeah,
think you've got to enable those people my age, people younger, you know, to feel like that they can also be like that themselves, you know.
yeah,
Give them the voices, give them the opportunities to kind of like, well, what do you think? What do you think we should do here? Kind
yeah,
of thing. And I think it's as soon as you've got that kind of um support or that kind of, that level of encouragement, I think it just changes things.
Does.
It changed things for me. Like as soon as, really grateful for the person who did, but as soon as they kind of took that chance on me and, let me into the compliance team, at the time, it was, and I very much still admired that man today.
Yeah,
I'm very grateful for, his friendship and his, well,
good.
could even say mentorship in a way,
Yeah.
over the years.
But you're tenacious like me. And I was once told I was tenacious, and I think it was meant as an insult, but actually I took it as a huge, gold star to me. But you are very tenacious. Even if that door hadn't opened at that point, you would have still found another one. And I love
Yeah,
what you're trying to achieve because let's have a think about this. So you're got your compliance hat on, you're still going out there and changing things for other people, creating this podcast, getting involved in
yeah,
the networking groups. You look at Kathy and what she's done with Verve. Her background was paraplanning, and look
yeah,
what she's gone on to create, now
yeah,
with evolution and all of those things. You look at Michelle Hoskins, her background was in the financial services profession, and I sat in a conference, not a conference, a training session that she did at
yeah,
KMG. God, we're going back many years ago now, probably about 15
yeah,
odd years. And one of the signs that she said put on the door as we went into the training room was, have you turned up with your batteries in? And it was that are you feeling enthusiastic? Are you here to actually
yeah,
learn and to engage and to do those things? These people have done amazing things. That their backgrounds weren't trainers, their backgrounds
yeah,
weren't being an advisor. Their backgrounds they were in the profession, saw the beauty of the things that you can achieve here, and went out there to achieve those things, but to actually make it possible for other people. And that's exactly what you're doing here. And I'd another 10 years on, I'll have to see where you are, you're at that point and the things that you've achieved, because you're putting yourself out there, and that's all you
yeah,
can do. That's all any of us can do, is to try and champion our profession, is to actually just share those really great things that are possible, but also where we might not want to achieve that level of visibility ourselves, how can we actually support others for them to achieve those things?
yeah. Yeah, no, thank you. I really appreciate all of that, because it's exactly, where my mindset is I just think there is, so like for myself, there's so much more that I want to achieve, in terms of my own career, but like my personal goals. I've set myself so many little targets and stuff that I'm like, oh, it'd be great to, like, by such and such date that, I've done this, I've done that.
Yeah,
And I think, for me, it is like, I've seen other people do it. I have, but they're not necessarily people who I know personally. Like, I've just heard of them or I've seen them, and it's great to watch. Like, Michelle Hosking, one of them. Yeah,
yeah,
100%. I went to the Advisor 3.0 conference, and
yes,
I went and sat in and listened to her. I tell you what, I spent all day, like, after that session, I was all like, I could achieve anything right now. I
yeah,
could go out that
yeah,
door and I could
yeah,
just go, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And that's it. And
yeah.
it's going to happen. And it's
Yeah,
just like,
Hayley Mitchell as well, who left Progeny. She's gone on
yeah,
to create Human Edge, I think her company is called.
yeah,
And she's going to do great things, because she's again one of
yeah.
those ladies that again are not afraid to put themselves out there.
No, and that's it. I mean, and I'm not going to, like, to anyone else who's listening out there, like, I'm going to tell you, there was a point in my life where I was a bit like, I'm quite happy to be the one in the background. I'll just work hard, do this. I'm not going to lie. I have also learned over the time that by doing that, you don't necessarily get recognised, not necessarily by your peers at work, but it's just, there's a lot of stuff that you're doing,
Yeah,
and it's like, yeah, it just kind of like melts into the background, doesn't it? So for
yeah,
me, I was like, how do I change this narrative? How do I change it for myself? What can I do differently? And there's two things that, like, I've really said I'm really passionate about, our profession, but more so, I'm passionate about seeing women in our profession. Like, I'm such a huge, supporter of, seeing more women come in, but in confidence, if that makes sense. Like,
yeah,
we are here, we're there to kind of like, this is our career too. Like, it's not just yours, it's our career
yeah.
too. Let's see what we're going to do. Yeah. So no, thank you. That was really kind of you to say. We're a bit short on time, so I will just quickly go through. I have, one last, I'm going to do two questions, but one is, just quickly, outside of work, you have your own family. How do you find balancing life and work? And do you have any tips for those out there?
Oh, crikey. Do you know, yeah, I've got 19-year-old twins now, but when I had them, I worked at KMG when I was going through my IVF treatment, and they were absolutely phenomenal in supporting me and going through the fertility treatments, but also all the tests you have to do before it. So then when the twins came along, you can imagine how expensive childcare is for two
Yeah,
babies. You need a community around you to make these things work. And it was catch-22 because I had to work because I had to earn. You've got your mortgage, you've got your bills,
mm,
and even though the children had come along, but there was that guilt factor of I've just gone through all of that IVF treatment to have them, and now I've got to go and leave them with somebody else. But do you know
yeah,
what? My husband, he was an estate agent at the time. He worked weekends, so he had one day off during the week. My mum worked part-time, so she had the twins 2 days every week. My sister was a beautician, so she had a day off during the week, and then I had the fifth day where I could work from home and then pick up
yeah,
any extra hours in the evenings to try and juggle stuff. So it really is about having that community around you. I was very fortunate in a position where family members could help me out, because
mm,
had they gone into childcare, I think I'd have been bankrupt. But I would have had to have given up potentially.
yeah,
And I've always loved what we've done here, what I've tried to achieve and what I continue to hopefully achieve in this profession. So it has been about having that support network. I don't always get it right. Do you know what I mean? There are going to be
yeah,
times where work is more demanding, and because I've got a project deadline date or something's happening and
mm,
I've got to dedicate more time there. But then I make sure, at a sensible time of night, am I turning the computer off and making the dinner and sitting down and having dinner with the family? All of
yeah,
those things, getting that balance right. I never missed an assembly. I never missed a sports day. There was all those things that, because I've worked with companies that
yeah,
they were there to support those elements. It was go and do the assembly. You'll only get to do those once. You actually go.
yeah,
So you go to all the assemblies and you think, oh God, I've got to sit here through this for another, this for half an hour of whatever. Kids all singing out of tune and all that jazz. But you know what? When they stop doing those things because they've gone on to secondary school, you actually start missing it, which is really sad, isn't it?
yeah,
So yeah, the struggle is real when it comes to having a family. But I think working for a company who is supportive, there are certain businesses that offer more maternity leave and stuff like that than others. I've worked for businesses where paternity leave, was equalised to maternity. So again, that might help to some individuals coming through now if they want to have that family. But hybrid working massively helped, hasn't it? With people being
yeah,
able to work from home, so you can take your child to the family member or the nursery for the few hours that you've got to work, and then you're there to pick them up rather than an hour and a half commute to London, that sort of
yeah,
thing. So there are things. It's a challenge, but don't stop from having your family by any means, because this is a career where you can get that balance, but
yeah,
it's about working for the right company,
mhm,
getting the right support network around you, and actually being intentional. A lot of my ops
yeah.
background probably helps massively, Siobhan, because the family calendar is
I can
it's
well
full,
imagine.
because it was like who's doing which pickup, who's doing which drop off, and
Yeah,
breakfast clubs and after school clubs. Make sure you find a decent school that
yeah, okay,
support those things, that have the wraparound care, because they're all things that will help support that 9 to 5 Monday to Friday.
yeah. Oh, well, maybe I might need you to come round and have a look at my calendar to see how I can better organise myself. No, that's great. Thank you. We've sort of sadly run out of time a little bit, but it's okay. It's been great having you on, Kerry. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for being my first guest. This is great. It's amazing. And as you say, I'm super excited to be doing this kind of stuff. I just want to get to know people. I love listening to people's stories. I love talking to you. I can't wait until the next time we bump into each other. But no, it's been absolutely lovely having you here.
Thank
Thank
you.
you for going through all those questions. And yeah, well, on that note, I will wish you a good day. I wish everyone else a good day. And we'll catch up soon.
Thanks, Siobhan. Take care.
No worries. Take
Bye
care.
bye.
Bye.